Welcome to Echoes and Roots. I'm Sabine, and I guide you back to nature, to your inner wisdom, and our ancestral ways of living in harmony with Mother Earth and the cosmos. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, the science of proper conception and birth. For what? In order to assure that a child comes in with maximum health, not just health, but comes into a field that ensures that a child is born into unity, consciousness, that a child is born with as much DNA activated as possible and therefore carries as much soul memory as possible. So a child that knows who it is and keeps that memory also alive beyond early childhood years. And a child that experiences from the first moment on the feeling that is the universe, really, that is like really this wholeness, oneness, oneness with Earth, with Mother Earth. A child that's really rooted into coming here, into the Mother, into Earth, but also wholeness with the cosmos and with itself. It's feeling its soul, that's feeling love, that's feeling this incredible feeling of kind of completion and oneness. And we all think we know how to create children. Well, we are very in infancy around the science around this right now. And we have tons of actual evidence how our ancestors who still knew how to do these practices have done it. And I'm going to present to you a little bit about this today. This is one of my absolute favorite topics. Wow, I'm so much choosing this. So now, when we talk about conception and birth, there's a couple of 4 things that are important. When, where, how. Well, the how, I mean, we know this, but we're going to talk a little bit more around the around things. And in a way, also what? Kind of ingredients. And nothing happened by chance in the past. Nowadays, we just get pregnant by chance. There is no level of consciousness. Yeah, there's maybe planning. People are I want to have a child, right? But there isn't this a very conscious act. Sometimes some people do, but most people don't have. Maybe they have a stress, oh, I need to get pregnant or something, but not like this absolute consciousness where you prepare before this. You already have an awareness of the soul that's going to come in as a couple. You choose very well when to conceive the soul together with the soul, and how to conceive the soul. And there is so much around it. So there is real science about this. And this doesn't mean that's not also fun and just pleasure. But, there is a bit, if you want to ensure, so in the past, our ancestors ensured that their civilization had a very high level of consciousness and also unity consciousness, so that they always felt connected to Mother Earth, so they could fulfill the role of humanity, which is to be a guardian of this planet, of the planetary system here as well, how planet Earth is part of a wider planetary system. And without actually feeling this unity consciousness, without you knowing, if I trash the planet, it's going to have an impact, not just on the planet, but also on me, you can't fulfill the guardian role. So you need to really uphold that. And in order to uphold that, you need to get a couple of things right. Firstly, conception, birth, and then also death. And I'm not going to talk about death. This is not a favorite topic of mine. How to die properly. You do have to know on this planet how to conceive and give birth properly and how to die properly. And in between also, a couple of things too in between. You should do some inner work and things like that. So very carefully with whom you're going to have children and sleep with. But there is like the bigger events are they're fascinating. I love them. How we come in and how we get out. Now, so our ancestors knew that they were like, okay, we want to uphold our role here as guardians, and also just living in unity consciousness. Incredible, having communities, where everybody contributes, where everybody takes care of each other, where we take care of Mother Earth, where we live not in the division we see today, but in love. We did this here, thousands and thousands of years on this planet. We did it. And there were, as I said, signs around. So, first ingredient, we need to talk about the most important. No, they're all important actually. There isn't the most important. First one, where this happened. Where did conception and birth happen in the past? In water. And I want you to feel for a moment this. So you can close your eyes, don't drive, but just close your eyes. And really first connect to your body. Just give yourself, a big breath, big inhale and exhale. Maybe it's the first time today you're connecting to yourself, to your body. How does your body feel? Like, do you need to move in a certain way? Is there tension held anywhere, or nervousness, or maybe just what does your body need right now? And then I want you to imagine yourself as a baby. At the moment you are born, and I invite you to imagine that you are coming into water, living water, not just like a pool like we have nowadays, sometimes birthing pools, which is nice, but now we are talking here about the pool of a sacred spring, living water. And your mother is there and your father is there too. And you just feel the love that they emanate, even though of course birth is sometimes, isn't always easy. The child gets like squished and squeezed all the way, but you kind of went through this tunnel, you went through this tunnel, you went through the tightness of your mother's vagina, and and then you're coming out. And you're coming out, remember, you were originally floating in water during the pregnancy, and then you're coming out again through this tunnel that you went through, where you really like, this is okay, this is my incarnation here on earth, now it's tight. And then you feel with we're still in the mother right now, with, her contractions, you feel this movement, this downward movement, it's pushing you slowly out, but also preparing you as a soul to come out. And you feel the push, but you also feel the heartbeat of your mother. And you do feel the love that your mother as well as your father holds, because your mother might be very much busy also with what's going on with the contractions and going through her own sensations and also sometimes through pain. But you feel you're going to come into water. And you feel in the water itself, there's this immense amount. It's almost like you're coming into a symphony of music. Just this really coherent, beautiful music, like imagine classical music. And you, after all this pushing, you're going to come out and you float again in water. And you feel the water around you, but you also feel the hands of your mother and your father. And you feel that moment, when a baby is born, it's this immense joy. It's this in both the parents, like it's this immense joy and love for life, and you feel that because you feel this release, almost like the release of hormones from your mother, like this release of love, and also the release from your father here, and the water itself. And you're just floating, and it feels very free. You're just floating free. You're here on earth all of a sudden, and you're floating, and then you feel the warm hands. Both of your parents, they are below you. They make sure like you carry, and then very slowly, because you're going to take the first breath as well, but you're in the hands now of your parents. You slowly emerge from the water, slowly coming up, and you're going to take your first breath, the breath of life, first breath on earth. And then After your first breath, you're going onto the chest of your mother. And she's still in the water, so you feel the water a bit, but you're also breathing, so your head is above the water. She's still partially immersed in the water. And you just feel her heartbeat, and it's a very soft landing on Earth. So, with that, easily open your eyes again. I wanted to give you a little bit of a feeling what it's like. So, this was a birth, but also conception happened in ideal settings, happens in water. Because, water is such an important element in the universe. On Earth here, we are made of water. Water is life. Water is consciousness. Water is God. Water is memory. And when we are conceived already in water, it's like this coming in. It's not just coming in because when we are conceived, right? It's like the merging of our mother and our father, and also the merging of their ancestors. But when we merge also there, when the water is already there, when they're surrounded by water, and when we are later born into water, we are literally having the memory of all the ancestors here on Earth. It is so incredible. It's the memories of your past life too. Because water holds those memories, every single incarnation you had on Earth. And we are all earthbound souls, so we are incarnating over and over again here on Earth. This is our planet. This is the race we were created to guard this planet. Our original planet Tara, and now Earth, This is, we are here, this is our home. This is where we belong. So we are coming back over and over again to fulfill this guardian role and our just own, exploration with Mother Earth. And so her waters, and we come into the water. And when you especially imagine, originally these were all nature sanctuaries. So your mother and your father, their feet would be rooted also. They would be like also standing on the soil, right? And then surrounded by water in these sacred springs. And it is just, it makes sure that so much consciousness is preserved. And so originally we started off having these nature sanctuaries, very specific waters. So we had certain springs, and springs are different. Their healing capabilities, their qualities is different depending on also the minerals they're on, the land they're on. But we have certain springs that really boost fertility. So that's also like, these are fertility waters where you can easier, right, conceive a child, because that's important. To boost fertility is important. And to really make sure also that the DNA stays, it's a very high, the DNA stays intact. And so we had these natural springs. We also had, we're conceiving children in natural caves, like water caves, and then secluded coves. And later on, we built temples, conception and birth temples, which were built up on sacred springs and had then pools, basically, where you would be in water that were filled with the water of these sacred springs. And I'm going to talk a lot about Malta today, because Malta is one of the best examples of these fertility temples. And as you know, I absolutely love Malta. You also will not get from anyone else. I did my research. You will not get from anyone else the level of detail that I'm telling you about the Maltese temples and what really happened there and why they were built. And but there is many more. We just, the way how we interpret temples today, and also they were altered later to basically hide the fact we had birthing and conception temples, which were water temples. This fact is hidden from us. That this is like, the hospital isn't necessarily the best environment, and of course home, for birthing especially, but even home, but it is the environment you are in for both, where you conceive and give birth, has a tremendous impact. How coherent the energy is. And that's the point why it happened in water, is in water you can make sure that there's a really coherent field of energy. The frequency, or you can impact the frequency. And first, when the water comes from sacred springs, it is already, when we had well, now our waters are polluted a lot on Earth, right? But this wasn't the case in the past. We would look after the waters, so the waters weren't polluted in the first place like this. Then also, underwater caves, sacred coves. And so the waters they were held sacred if they were not used like for these conception rites or birthing rites. And there were different ones. The conception and birthing was done in different places. But if they're not used, then we would take care of them, so at the other times we would really look out for the sacred waters and would do prayers over the water and all these things to ensure that these waters stay of a very high coherent field of energy. Now, first was the water, really important ingredient also for birth, because for birth is even more, we are, even from an elemental perspective, life starts in Chinese medicine out of the water element, it ends in the water element. Two, death is water element, birth is water element. And because universe in a way is water, just in plasma form. We're not talking about death today, but it's really interesting to also look at proper death rites. I'm not saying you should die in war, this gives the idea of drowning, no. But there is some science, there is a lot of science to this too. But it has also more to do about like how the soul is being guided after death and things like that. But okay, we're going to talk more about birth now, but with the birthing, like with the visualization we just did, when you're really coming into water and you're coming already from the water in the womb, right? You're coming from the amniotic fluid. And then again, it's about having this really coherent field in water. And also during pregnancy, there is a whole science to pregnancy, which I'm also, this is the kind of stuff I'm studying in my spare time, because this is, to me, this is very important. I'm very passionate about this, but there's a whole science about how you impact the health of your child during pregnancy, which has totally been lost. Nobody's doing this anymore. And it's not just about the child, it's also about the mother, because the mother her health is so, so important, because she's the one who's carrying the child, who's nurturing the child with her own blood. She's the one who's going to breastfeed the child for years. Natural ways of parenting is you can breastfeed up to 4 to 5 years if you want to, but that goes off your blood. For a mother, that goes off your really like the deepest core of your energy, and you have to make sure that you actually have the sufficient health in your blood for that. Otherwise you're just draining yourself, you're just burning yourself out doing it. Same as during pregnancy, right? Also in the past, that's why I'm saying everything was planned. We wouldn't just have kids one after the other. Like women were not just breeders in the past. Like for the last couple of thousand years, the role of a woman is like, you bring in children, that's your role. It was like this in the past. Women were the leaders of tribes, of our human tribes, together with their husband. This was equality, but women were women had so many different roles. They were highly regarded for their leadership qualities, for their visions, for their healing capabilities, for so many things. And a woman wasn't just a breeder at all, And if you had children, which not every woman had either, because that's not the role of every woman necessarily in society to have children, but if you had children, like in the past, we would make sure that we don't grow as a civilization too much so that we take too much resources from, right? There is a natural ceiling to how many people should be on this planet. If you look around how many resources are available, and when are we starting to take too much from Earth? And we would upkeep that balance. Plus, if you do really natural kind of attachment style parenting, you will see you cannot have one kid after another. Just like, because, even if you have a village to raise the kid, it is still about how much time you have, how much attention, how much, as I said, it's about your own DNA, like how good is the level of your blood. Because there's so many things, how long can you actually breastfeed? And even from a Chinese medicine perspective, it's like ideally to have 7 years in between children. Because the child needs it from an attachment style idea, but also from the DNA of both the men and the women, from their health. Because your cells renew every 7 years, and this is where in 7 years you can regain all the resources that you have given off to growing a child in you, and this is not just the woman, it's also about the man, because men, especially these days, their energy goes everywhere. Their energy goes like outside the home to work. It goes to all kind of stuff, like distraction, gaming, porn, all kind of things where men lose tons of energy. And that's why we live longer, but in what health? It's really, and actually we don't live longer. That's another myth. No. We lived much longer in the past. When we upheld a couple of, a bit of knowledge around health, we live much longer than now. And that is long time past. We decided actually when we left, that dying, like the kind of aging we're having now, this sort of dying because of the body stopping to function and all kind of diseases, that's really metatronic. That it came in with us not upholding anymore certain knowledge, not having anymore the science, really, how to stay healthy and how to actually even like go out naturally. Usually in the past, this is long time ago, it's 200, I'm talking 200,000 years ago, we would simply decide, okay, now it's time for me to go. I transition, done, but we could live very, very long if we wanted to. And in good health, because nowadays, unfortunately, when you look at a lot of people, their health deteriorates very quickly after certain ages, and it's not a fun life anymore. It's not like, but it's also because we are like burning ourselves out. We are losing energy all over the place with all kind of things, and having one kid after the other. I'm sorry to being honest, but that is not healthy, not for the mother, not for the kids. Ideal health either. So I'm being very vague, but this is my opinion. This is what I've learned, for years studying medicine, Chinese medicine, alternative medicine, and also, just from sort of memory. So we would choose to have much, longer distances between children, less children, and then we could actually really give the best DNA to the child, so that the child also has the highest level of consciousness and health. Okay, that's a little excessive. We are going into more now. So we had the water. Second thing, it wasn't just the water that was the ideal environment. Second thing, sound. Now, when conception and birth was done in natural sanctuaries, if it's not like a spring, pool, but if you're looking at really ocean, coves and things like that, we had the sound of whales. And if you're curious about, whales sing as well for their children. I made a whole podcast. I made 2 podcasts, I think, on this, because it's, we can learn so much from our animals. We can learn so much from nature when we just start to, connect back to nature. Like, all of this information is held in nature, But yeah, so whales sing in their breeding grounds, the grounds where they have sex, and so where they mate, and they have the children. It's not just only where they have the children. They do that. They do the mating and having children in the same area. They not just mate. They could mate somewhere else, right? They could mate on the way when they are migrating or in the feeding grounds. No, that's not what they're doing. They have one dedicated space where they mate and have the children. And in that space, they are singing. non-stop. They have singers. I said this in my last podcast. I'm going to link it here because it's so fascinating. They have singers who sing non-stop, 24/7. You have a certain frequency that is part of their songs that is going through the water, and that is ensuring what's the frequency doing. It's ensuring a very high level of coherence in the water, of harmonic cell structure, plus memory, stories of the ancestors, stories of the land. That's why the child, right? Okay, we need to talk about the frequency fence too. That's why we're losing all the memories, because of the frequency fence. So that is how you undo the frequency fence. So, okay, let's talk about the frequency fence for a moment. Since the frequency fence we have going on since a long time, I'm not entirely sure, but I need to think about this now. I think it was also after the second seeding I started to have these frequency fences. That's around end of second seeding, was like 200,000 years ago, something like that time frame. So what it means, it's like usually our progression here is that soul evolves on Earth, and if you evolve to a certain level of consciousness, because we are in a certain dimension, you go up to Tara, our original planet, and there was actually a passage created because the original planet was destroyed, but you would go up to an earlier time before it was destroyed. So you could continue evolving on the 5th dimension, Tara. And even from Tara, we have an evolutionary path up to Gaia on the 7th dimension. And we have races that were seeded us, same DNA, but then a higher dimension, on Gaia. So you can evolve. That's why I'm saying we are earthbound souls. We are evolving here with the system that Earth has. And Earth has Earth 3rd dimension, Tara 5th, Gaia 7. Now it's a bit different, our evolution in the future, but that doesn't matter. We're going by what has usually happened in the past. So when you are kind of done here with everything on Earth as a soul, you've learned a lot, you really evolved, you're sort of, you're going up to a higher level of consciousness. You, after death, go up to Tara. Now, this natural part of evolution became impossible for many reasons. One reason was that our DNA digressed too much. We interpreted too much with other races, Draconian, Anunnaki races, and then that would have digressed the entire human race too much and taken away from our guardian role, because we know the Metatronic races are very self-serving. They're not really taking care of anything, of any planet. They're liking to take over planet and abuse the resources. So we cannot have this happen to humanity and have this evolve then into higher densities on top of that, right? Evolve into Tara and into Gaia. There is a total, everything becomes total self-serving and everything ends up destroying the planets, which then has impact if our Earth, because we're linking into, on a planetary level, our big Earth stargate links into other stargates. So if we destroy everything down here because we're too self-serving, we basically destroy other races on Sirius and in the Pleiades and everywhere, and this is not good for our time matrix. This is the entire fall of the time matrix. That's why we have such a trauma going on right now on Earth with, can we actually go back to the organic timeline? Can we come back to remembering we are here to take care of the planet and be nice to each other and step out of war and division? Or are we going to go down the Metatronic route and just be self-serving and in division thinking and wage war, and then the entire time matrix falls? So a big trauma about this. But the thing is, we digress so much because, again, as I said, we slept with everyone, not thinking about maybe what the motives behind, what their motives are. And then we got in some frequency fences where it was like, okay, you cannot just go up to Tara anymore. No, you develop here further on Earth, you learn further the lessons here on Earth about coming into unity consciousness, and when that is ready, then again races go up to evolve up to Tara. And we had there was a workaround this, because of course in the meanwhile souls still evolved, because the frequency fence means you come back here over and over again. And what we had then on top of that, but that was more a thing from the fallen angelics, was that People totally forgot who they are. That is the soul memory wipe out when you incarnate again. So you're actually living the same life over and over again, and you're learning nothing. You're not evolving at all. So, and that is not ideal as well. That's why our ancestors started to really hone down on some practices on how to go around this, go around both the frequency fence as well as losing out your memory. And I just said, when you get born, that's why the whales, they don't do that. They upkept such a high level of consciousness that they come in with soul memory because they have such an important role as guardians here. That's why they know how to get around those frequency fences with certain practices, which are natural anyway. So that's why they make sure, okay, in the conception and breeding grounds, we have certain sounds that holds memory of our ancestors plus previous incarnations, because everything is stored here. The stones, the tree, everything stores the memory of your previous incarnations. Trees recognize people. I love this so much, but this is true. Like, you sometimes, when you go back to an area where you used to live in a past life, the trees, and of course it was the ancestors of the trees that stood there, thousands of years ago, because we chopped everything down. But, the trees still remember you. And that is how you can, when we connect back to nature, how we can start to remember again. Because I had this, like the first ever memory of a past life was brought to me by a tree. And I will never ever forget this moment. Never. It was so, I so love, I love the entire forest. I love a lot of trees. But more than some humans, most humans. But, trees have very high level of consciousness. No. But, yeah. I will never forget this. This is so incredible. That's why I love the trees so much. They are like, we can learn so much from them. And so when you come into the water that holds the memories of you having been here, you get that again. It doesn't matter if you go to a frequency fence, and you will get a wipe out because of some technology that the fallen angelics installed. You get the memory again because it's in Mother Earth. And oh my God, I do also love how Mother Earth and we found solution around the stuff that the fallen angelics constantly invent, to make life a little bit hard. It's like it's like a game. It's like, oh, we do this, and then we're like, yeah, we do this. Yeah. And okay, and then there is the other. I'm going to tell you about the other solution as well, about the frequency fence, because it's very important about the temples we built later. But sound. So water was infused with sound. Natural sanctuaries, whale sounds. In the temples, what happened in temples, and that's why Malta is, oh my God, Malta is the ideal. I told you, Malta, they had these underground total sound temples built like an ear, amplified sounds they make in it, and there was water in it too. And the rooms vibrate at very specific low frequency ranges. So they would build rooms in a way to vibrate at a certain frequency that brings in harmony. And these underground sound temples were connected to the birthing and conception temples that are above ground. So you have the vibration that already comes as also amplified, and it is down in the earth. You just need to imagine this. And there's the water. We know this, the hypogeum. They have sealed it off now. Hypogeum is in Malta, one of the underground temples. But there is a big well there, and then of course they're hiding everything. But yeah, the well is there, and then it's connected to the temples above, where then the women and men would come to conceive, and then the women would come to give birth in specific closed off. They even showed it. There are closed off rooms in these temples, or rooms could be closed off, and they all had that. I don't remember so much. How is the temple designed? Natural, round. Everything is round. They have these round rooms, because in a round room, energy can travel in the most coherent way. And then, of course, they have stones that hold a very high percentage of quartz, which stores memory, which also transmits energy. And then they have the water in there, and then you would get the sound from the sounds that the priests did through chanting, drumming, singing in the underground sound temples, coming up into the above the ground temples, and then infusing the birthing pools and the conception pools with sound. It's just like the science of it. I'm like in love. I just loving it. I'm just like, how did the ancestors knew this and felt this, you know? Yes, so you have sound. So you have water, you have sound. Next thing we're going to talk about before we talk about the most juicy thing is when are you going to conceive a child? Now, and this also has to do with how these temples are aligned. So a lot, and this is so fascinating because the places we used to, also the springs, the fertility springs, the water is actually aligned to something. And then later we align to temples to the same thing. What is it? Equinox and solstice. So if you want to bring in a child from a place outside the frequency fence, so a child that's a soul that spent some time, also because we on Earth, right? Okay, yes, we have the human Tyrannism DNA template, but we were seated also on other templates in higher dimensions. The same DNA template is present in Sirius B. Sirius B, we're going to talk about it, very important, is present in places like Mantaka, is present in Pleiades, different planets. And because they're on a higher density level, there is, of course, a higher level of unity consciousness, a higher level of awareness, knowledge about the universe, plus Tara, bringing in a soul that's coming in from Tara. And in the past, we would do that. We would bring in souls that either spend some time that are not just recycling on Earth over and over and forgetting everything. No, we would bring in some human, Orphan templates from other planets, basically, that spend some time in other places, have trained there, so they can always, in a way, infuse here the knowledge again with this higher science of the universe. And also for soul evolution, if you wanted to evolve, like, let's say, just outside, if you're coming from one of there's also guardian councils, especially like the Indigo line was seeded from the Azurite guardian council from Sirius B. So if you want to infuse humanity with different, they already seeded the Ionic line 200,000 years ago, a long time ago. So if you want to infuse because at times we need, that's the thing, our DNA digressed, what on a higher level we have, let's say, councils with souls that are coming from the original pool of the creation of humanity, that are overseeing what's happening with the human race overall through our time, right? Because we are a guardian race, we shouldn't digress too much and becoming all metatronic, because then, as I said, Earth is important. The whole thing blows up in our 15-dimensional time matrix. We cannot, then the whole tons of races get impacted in other places in Sirius and Pleiades, etc. Cannot happen. So there are councils that oversee what's happening with the genome of humanity in that time, infusing the genome again with lions, with souls basically that either have evolved in times in Tara or have evolved at times in Sirius B, to bring back some higher level and also make sure that certain DNA strands are open again. Where was I? The alignment. I was about the equinox, exactly. And if you want to bring in a soul like that, you're going to conceive that soul on the equinox. Because the equinox is an electromagnetic portal where like a natural stargate is opening between Earth and the sun, because that's the natural way to come in and out is through the sun, not the frequency fence. Right now, how the soul recycling is happening through I think it's happening through Moon, Saturn, and there's another planet that's involved. That's not natural. We would go in and out of the sun. This is our natural stargate from Earth. The Earth stargate goes into the sun stargate and then out and down. We shouldn't go anywhere else. And during the equinox, you can ensure this soul is coming in and out through the sun. So this is also that's why the Egyptians, though these were like the Anunnakis, totally obsessed about going out the right way, the death right, because again, they also didn't want to get trapped here. They want to go back to whatever Nibiru, the battle star, and there's Anunnakis on the Pleiades, there's Anunnakis on Sirius A, there's Anunnakis on Taurus, everywhere. They're all over the place. They want to go back to their own places too. You know, that's why they have had a whole science in Egypt around death, and where to go after death, and builds like, because these are primarily like fallen angelic king lions, the things we see now. Not the Egypt before 9000 BC was amazing, Sarah's Egyptian, but then we had fallen angelic king lions, and they did a whole thing for them to get out properly, because they hate to die in the first place. They like to be immortal. They have a lot of immortal beings for which they need to siphon energy. So already death they hate. And if they have to die, they want to make sure they're not going to get trapped either. You know, it's like, yeah, whatever. But the science of like the humans, we had the science of, okay, how do we bring in our souls properly, and make sure our human children have the highest amount of unity consciousness. So equinox, and when you look at Yeshua 12 and his Ekatic twin Marahari, the real Jesus, I'm not talking about the 9-level avatar. There were 2 Jesuses and another guy who was crucified. Yeshua 12 was conceived on the equinox, and so was his Ekatic twin Mahari. She was born around the summer solstice. He was born end of November. And they were both, now I'm coming to Sirius. They were both coming down because they were coming from the Azurite Council of Sirius B. They were coming down through a passage, which is called the Halls of Amorea. So this is another thing that we did in order to get around the whole frequency fence and make sure we bring it in, because Marahari and Yeshua 12 are Terranusium souls from Tara. They are human souls, but already from density 5 level, not a density 5, from it's density 2, 5th dimension, from Tara, with original 12-strand DNA. That's why I'm saying, if you want to bring in an avatar like this, you have to get around the frequency fence. And they had a whole group, as I described this on my Instagram. They were the only couple. There were 3 couples there. The whole leader of that group was John the Baptist and his wife, incredible consciousness. Then we had Emmanuel and his wife, and Yeshua 12 and Marahari, those 2 Ekatic twins, and there was a whole big group around them. This was also the case with many other missions here, and many other times groups came in through the Halls of Amorea Passage. Now, the Halls of Amorea Passage, what is this thing? The Halls of Amorea Passage is a Stargate passage where you can come in and out. And it's going into the D6th Stargate of Sirius B. And it's going around the D4 and D5, which are taken over by the fallen angelics. So you are going around any of their stargates and things they're linking into. And you're going straight from Earth through the sun to Sirius B. And the Halls of Amorea Passage, it became known later in Egyptian time as the third eye of Horus, because of course also especially the Sirius Egyptians who kept that knowledge, and also as they wanted to keep using, that passage to go in and out. So seeding 2, I'm looking at some of my notes because I can't remember also everything. Seeding 2 of humanity was seeded through the Halls of Amorea Passage. Because, how does a seeding happen? We are not even talking about birth, we're talking a lot about history here. But it's my passion. It's my baby history. And so a seeding. When we were seeded again, so our genome is held in what's called the Sphere of Amenti. It's a sphere that holds DNA codes. And the Sphere of Amenti was created when before Tara exploded, a group of very smart and psychic Tyrannusiums, our ancestors, foresaw that their some other Tyrannusium souls were experimenting a bit too much with technology and were going to blow up the entire planet and therefore destroy the human race. So they made an how do we even say that, it's not even an agreement, but a plan. They made a plan with a couple of other guardian councils and races, to basically, they gave up their life, they gave up their souls to preserve the human genome and create a Sphere of Amenti, which is simply like a record of our DNA. Like, how is our DNA built? And then from this Sphere of Amenti, usually actually we would incarnate. So when we were seated again on Earth, because of course the thing did happen, the fall, that's originally the fall of man, the Tara did explode. And then we're like, whoop, we need to find a new planet. And some parts of Tara became Earth, or one part of Tara. And so we're like, okay, now we're going to seed the human on Earth. And this could only happen because the genome was there in the sphere. And from this genome, you can basically then create again the race and seed it, because you have the whole DNA patterns. And when we were on Earth, we would usually, so the natural, if we don't have frequency fences going on, we would come in and out through the Sphere of Amenti. So every single time you come in and out, you go basically through a shower of your own DNA template, because there is a little yeah, like it's written. It's kind of like written. It's like your DNA, like you personally, your soul. You know, it's like the human souls, right? As your little specific DNA template is stored in the Sphere of Amenti. When you come in and out, you go again through this. So you also remember, oh, that's who I am, you know. And then you come in with that memory into Earth, and you also go out, you know, with that memory. And then when we would go up again to Tara, to earlier timelines of Tara, there's all kind of things that can be created in the universe. It's incredible passageway created to that earlier times of Tara, so we can evolve in the fifth dimension. And then maybe rewrite the storyline and not explode our planet again, because there's different storylines also. There's different timelines happening all at the same time. It's a bit crazy. Anyway, so what do I say? You would go to Tara through the Sphere of Amenti. Sphere of Amenti was placed at the core of Earth. But then we had so many wars going on, and the Sphere of Amenti was taken out of the core of Earth and placed, I think for a time it was placed... I was placed in 40 for a time. Anyway, it's a whole thing. And then again, for some of these other dimensions, it was lowered again. And yeah, but where was I? You would go. I'm still talking about the Halls of Amorea Passage. So you would usually go to the Sphere of Amenti. That's where the whole genome is part of. I don't know. I lost the trail of thoughts now. I should come back to it. I don't know. We need to go back to the Halls of Amorea Passage. Oh yeah, the seeding. That's where I was. See, when you want to see the race again, you basically have the genome, and you have all the little souls, right? It's written down in the Sphere of Amenti. So you just bring them back on Earth even after they're destroyed. That's what happened. First seeding. Second seeding. Same thing. Sphere of, again, the genome, the template of all the little souls that are Earth souls taken, and then you just create the race. It's like, I mean, yeah. Anyway, and you bring it down on Earth, and the passage through which the second seeding was brought down on Earth was the Halls of Amorea Passage, because it's a Stargate passage through which then every soul can come and incarnate. Then the Halls of Amorea Passage, though, then was destroyed. It was repaired later. So the third seeding happened, through which a thing that is really well known in the New Age, the Ark of Covenant passage. You know, everybody is about the Ark of Covenant, because the Ark of Covenant is another passage that was created because the Sphere of Amenti was raised out of the core of Earth. Then Halls of Amorea Passage was damaged, so we had to somehow bring seeding 3. We're talking about 80,000 years. That's like Lemurian, that's Atlantean history, and we are in seeding 3 right now. is our time. You know, if you get wiped out, it's done with Sirius 3, but I think if we get wiped out this time, it's over with us. I'm not sure how it was going to happen, but, you know, anyway. Sphere of Amenti is still there. You can still put the human somewhere, but, you know, maybe it's enough of that fun of us, you know, like getting into wars all the time, and I don't know. Anyway, so the Ark of Covenant Passage, Sirius 3 was done, so the Ark of Covenant Passage, and that one is connected to Giza. That's why there's a whole story about who's controlling Giza and who's controlling that passage now. Anyway, Halls of Amorea, though. This passage directly to Sirius B was repaired 22,000 years ago. No, 24,000 years ago. And then the Ayani indigo cray lines incarnate through this passage. And also, as I said, the Yeshua mission, the 12th avatar, the 12th avatar, the other one is in Anunnaki, incarnated through this passage. And now it comes the most important thing, not the most important thing, but the most amazing thing. So if you want to bring in my talk, if you want to bring in a highly evolved soul going around the frequency fence and forgetfulness, you can go through the Halls of Amorea Passage and bring in children from there. How do you do that? Again, alignment. So we already had your ideal time, because it's like a natural stargate where Earth aligns with the sun equinox. You already have a natural stargate opening. And then you have a temple alignment to Sirius. And where do we have this? Malta. This is crazy. They built, Malta is, I don't know, 60 known temples, and then there's a lot of them underwater too. Why have they built? They have built apparently temple and temple again over time. Why? Precession, alignment to Sirius. The temples are aligned to Sirius. So they could bring in children and also, I think, go out through the Halls of Amorea Passage. Is absolutely incredible, because those temples were built by a very highly evolved line of humans. And yeah. And I can assure you, so Maharari and Yeshua 12, but then also the two other Ekatic twin pairs, John the Baptist, his wife, Emmanuel and his wife, they were all, it was all natural conception. There was nothing like, there was no immaculate conception, natural conception to Melchizedek cloister parents. But when these children, I told you, when these children were conceived and where, that was highly planned, you know, they weren't just conceived anywhere and on any date. Now we're coming to the last ingredients. We're almost coming up to the hour. I always talk much longer than I plan. The most important ingredient, you know, because of course it cannot just be all scientific, you know, like, yeah, it can be all scientific and you can be in water and you can, you know, if you wanna just do this for yourself at home, you can think about a water birth, right? You can think about conception water too. You can think, well, you know, you need to go a little bit intuitive about when you're going to conceive the child, because, you know, this is high. Conceiving on the equinox and on very specific ley lines and waterways is high science that we used to do, you know, in temples, and it's for very specific purposes. But of course, in a natural way, you're going to listen to the soul that wants to come in, because that soul also has a soul plan. And that plan is also defined by the time the soul is going to be born and the date is going to be born. So it's not that every child should be like conceived on the equinox. You know, this was preserved for some very specific, you know, avatar children. But this is not like that everybody, because everybody has a different soul plan. That's why not everybody can be born on the same day or conceived on the same day. That would be absolute madness. No, you need to listen to the soul that wants to come in, you know, together as a couple, and see, and just be intuitive. When does the soul wants to be conceived, you know? Because that then defines when the soul is going to be born, you know. So it's a thing depending on what the soul wants to experience. And then, of course, the place also, in a way, sometimes this is so interesting. Like, people get conceived in certain locations, because of the energy of the location. You just need to feel. You need to do intuitive stuff these days. It's not anymore. We're not so much anymore into just science. That's also, in the past we needed to get around all the frequency fences, and we needed to really uphold the consciousness. But now it's also about really being intuitive, and really listening to ourselves and listening to the land, because we are coming in here as servants of Mother Earth. So a child being born on a specific, or being conceived on a specific day and in a specific place, also then carries the energy and carries the contract of Mother Earth. So it's really impacting. That's what I just wanted to tell you. There's a difference if you conceive a child just in your bed or wherever else. Like, there is a difference. So just be mindful and really feel intuitively, where do I want to do that? And not just all kind of random things. And of course it also goes down to the moment to like feeling into, okay, when am I actually going to be really fertile? Things like, when is the right moment? When is the right moment to bring this child down? And then, of course, where does the child want to be born? And as I said, not every woman, we have various different settings right now where how you can give birth. And it also has to do with where does the woman feel comfortable, Like home birth or water birth is maybe great for some women who feel really comfortable with this. But it's also about how does the woman really feel empowered? And where does the woman feel safe, and where does she feel like she can really let go and really be herself, and really just because a lot is really about a woman being left to her intuition, to her power. Where does she feel empowered? And some women feel more empowered when they have an epidural, or when they call for a C-section or whatever. They feel more safe, and that's fine too. Because you're the mother. You bringing in a child is a big thing. Giving birth is like a big thing. It's like, it's not an everyday job. And you should be just choosing what suits you, where you feel it goes bad. Because if you say, I cannot stand the pain of a natural birth, or the fear that something goes wrong if I give birth at home, it's not going to be an ideal birth either. If you're just in so much pain, if that consumes you, if you are in so much fear because something goes wrong because you're at home or wherever, no, it is better. You go, you do it where you feel comfortable. I think that's the most important thing. Like, really, do it where you feel comfortable. Yes, I'm telling you science, and science is interesting, but then there is like intuition. And there is natural ways, and there is just going with what feels best for you and the child and the partner as well. Because, if you have your partner freaking out, it's like at some births, it's really the men are the one who are like literally needing the attention, because they are freaking out. And like, your partner needs to be comfortable with your choices too. Like, he needs to have the trust. I remember like my first birth, I was like, I'm doing a natural vaginal pre-birth, and I don't need a C-section or anything. I can do that. And I'm pretty sure like my ex-husband, he was like, what on earth? But he was just trusting me. I was like, okay, she feels comfortable. She has things under control. And I'm like, yes, I can do this. I have this under control, And second birth, I did a home birth. I was like, because I already wanted to do a home birth for my first birth, but pre-birth, you're allowed to do a natural birth, vaginal birth in the Netherlands. Incredible. I had incredible doctors for that. Really cool. But you're not allowed to do that at home. But I had my second child at home, and it was incredible. It was really cool. And, but you need to be comfortable. I was really like, I totally know what to do. Like, I felt I was totally in control the whole time, Like, I didn't need anything or any doctor or whatever there. I was like, no, I can manage that, But the woman, that's what I'm saying, where she feels comfortable, she feels she is empowered, that's where she should give birth, because that's the environment where she's relaxed. And where she can bring in this child and just, there's pain. Of course, there's pain. and you're gonna like come to the moment where you're like, I don't know if I would. Why did you get pregnant? Why did you make me pregnant? It's so funny. Like you're gonna come to the moment where you're just like, it's too much pain. Oh my god. And then you forget, and then you have another child, and then you're like, why did I forget that pain? Birth is like, yeah, birth is tough and fun. But I'm just like, yeah, thinking back, to birth. It's just, but I also, oh my god, this was like my most incredible experience in my life. It was literally birth, and afterwards, with my second son, specifically afterwards, I was like loving it, best week of my life. Just with the baby the whole time, like, it's like it. Yeah, but that's why it's beautiful to bring in children. It is amazing, and you should do it in a way you feel the most comfortable. And that brings me to the last point, the most important point: love. That's why I'm saying this. You need to be comfortable. Conception. In love, of course, that's the most important ingredients. I mean, if you don't have the word, like that's science, like being in some sort of temple and some sort of ley line, and that's high science, That's what some also, like, not everybody in the civilization would do that, That's what the priests and priestesses maybe did, some part of the civilization, but and I think the sacred natural pools, that's what a lot of us did, like but later in temples, it was maybe not everybody, I'm not sure, but anyway, but the thing is that love is the most important thing, unless it's happening, like, also with all the signs, if it's not happening in love, that's not the point, the child should of course be conceived like in total love and put in total love, that is like what is also, no matter the circumstances of the birth, what's gonna heal that, like, yeah, birth sometimes can be a bit traumatic, it can be a lot of pain, and things can happen that you don't foresee, things are out of your control, but the love, that you feel, especially once the baby is born, it's such an, oh my god, the moment the baby is born, it's one of my other most favorite moments in life. It's like, I will never forget that. Like, when I gave birth to my son, like the preach birth, which was really long and really hard, and the moment he came out with his butt first, it's like, just also his personality a bit like that. He's headstrong. Came out butt first, headstrong. But it's so incredible. And to share also that moment, of course, with your partner, it's like, wow, it's just wow. It's like these are the moments to die for, I think, yeah, these are moments to die for, like, to experience that. And that's why I'm saying love is the most important ingredient. And especially also during the conception, like, to not be so, like, tense or tied up, I need to get pregnant, or whatever, or to be totally mindless, like, I have no clue that you're making a child right now, but to just be like, have fun, have pleasure, and just have love with each other, and then, yeah, that's the ultimate ingredient of this little science talk. And then, of course, with the birth as well, and everything that happens afterwards and before with the pregnancy. I mean, I also think pregnancy can be amazing. I love to be pregnant. I thought pregnancy was so amazing, but because just, the feeling of having a child inside of you, and I don't know, I was totally in my own world. I was a child in my own world the whole time, and it was amazing. So having kids is also really nice, and it's not always easy once you parent them and they're here. That's like, it's a total different thing. But making them, and then also the pregnancy, and birth, it's a bit of a mixed bag with the pain as well, because the pain is there. I'm still like, is this really this whole thing of, like, when they pre-rate the pain, is this real, or is this just nonsense? Is this just like, is that people selling something? I'm like, I'm not sure. Can you, like, have an orgasmic birth? Like, is this a real thing, or is this, like, I don't know. I had a normal, like, I had pain, and then of course I was incredibly happy when the baby was out, but there was a lot of pain. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to pretend I had an orgasmic birth. Maybe it's possible. So something to maybe try for one day. I don't know. It could be interesting, but then you never know. You cannot plan these things. That's another thing, right? You don't really know what happens. But that's it. That's it. We went from A to B to C in this, and one last thing I wanted to tell, because this whole thing like really stood up in me as I'm preparing for my course, Healing the Mother Wound, because I also think it's going to be part of the course for us to heal to heal also our own birth stories. Like when we gave birth to our children and the pregnancy, to heal those stories, that was it's so important. I remember I had, because my first child was preech, and when I was pregnant for the second time, I was so scared to have a preech-child again. And I really addressed my fears through art. I did all kind of, like, what did I make? I made a dolphin. I made a mother, like a really mother figure and I was, that was so funny. I was holding on to these figures during the birth, because I was like, in pain. I'm like, I'm holding on to this figure that I made during pregnancy. That kind of resembled also the emotional things I was going through as I was having fears to have another preech birth. And my dream was a home birth, and already during the first pregnancy, right? And then I had an amazing preech birth, but not amazing. It was also very hard, but it was like, under all circumstances, it was my most ideal preech birth that I could have, natural. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to see C-section. So I did have that, but then I really wanted to have a home birth during the second pregnancy, but I also had the fears of what happened during the first pregnancy. But then, I worked through those fears, and I did have the home birth of my little son. That is so cool, baby. Because he's my baby. No, he's like 10 now. But that's the thing. And also our own births, I had all kind of trauma from from the way I was brought in and what happened afterwards and stuff. Not how I was conceived, but how the birth and stuff, what happened afterwards. And these are the things that is really good for us to address, and it's good for us to address at any time, because it's just helps us, feeling like really rewriting these stories and trusting, especially also trusting in our own body as mothers, because we can take on the story of our own mother, how she felt around being pregnant or getting pregnant, being pregnant, the fears of losing children, right? If you had a mother who had miscarriages, we can take on these fears, even though it might not be our story. All kind of things, like how her body changed during pregnancy and afterwards, and the things she carried. We take that on. We take all kind of stuff from the ancestors, and it's just good to address it. It's going to be part of my course now. I realize this needs to be part of that course, Healing the Mother Wound. That's why I'm talking to you about this subject as well, because it's on the forefront. It's my favorite. Well, it's really one of my favorite subjects. The whole thing, pregnancy, birth, and conception. But I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and you're going to check out maybe at some point the fertility temples in Malta. They're incredible. If you want to get some more fertility energy, you can go also to Sardinia, because Malta is as I said, Malta is scientific. This was high science of how to bring in people from the Halls of Amorea Passage. High science. But Sardinia also had a really highly evolved civilization, and Sardinia you still feel much more, because Malta was really abused. There was, oh my god, like Knights of Malta came in, no, before that there were sacrifices done, human sacrifices and animal sacrifices in the temples to really destroy the energy of the temples by not the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, I think, came into Malta. And then we had, Malta, even like they chopped down all the forest. Like, Malta had a lot of abuse on the land, because it was so incredible. Malta was, when the temple stood, it was incredible. So afterwards, of course, they destroyed everything. But Sardinia, that's what I'm saying. Sardinia, you can still feel a lot of the more really feminine energy in the beautiful nature, beautiful waters also. in Sardinia, also Malta. If you go to Malta, you need to go swimming in the ocean there. Really, really important, because that's where you pick up still some of that energy. It used to be there. But also Sardinia, you know, go into the waters, go swimming. Beautiful beaches. Sardinia is beautiful. Beautiful food. Everything is beautiful in Sardinia, honestly. You can't go wrong when you go to Sardinia. And it's very feminine, you know, you're going to feel really into your feminine. There's colorful villages and art, and you want to dress nicely because it's Italy and everybody's dressed nicely. And yeah, you know, that's like, yeah, that's how you can also boost these days a little bit your femininity. It's like you go to these places and you pick it up from the place, and yeah, you take it home. Then you're maybe fertile, and then you have a child. So, okay, fun enough. That's why I could talk forever about this topic, but okay, I really stop now. I'm wishing you a lovely time. Next time we should really need to talk about the Divine Mother at some point. That's my plan, at least. I'm gonna come to her and talk about her. But yeah, we're gonna come to it. Okay. Thanks so much for your attention, and until next time. Follow me on Instagram at Echoes and Roots for grounded spirituality, ancient wisdom, and nature-based living.